The theme this evening is getting banking right in Nigeria. I have the pleasure of welcoming Sagbenga Badijo, one of our panelists, Mr. Ademola Oni, another panelist, and Mr. Ibuku Akinka, another panelist. Having welcomed our distinguished panelists in that manner, I'd like to welcome every other person joining this meeting. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to yield the space to Wale Croft to introduce us to what Rescue Nigeria is all about. What is it about Rescue Nigeria? Why are we having a People's Parliament? Worry no more. Let me hand over to Wale Croft. Over to you, Wale.
Thank you, Funke, Treasure. Good afternoon, everybody. As we have acknowledged, I am so happy to be here and to be participating in this event once again. Who are we and what are we all about is what I want to quickly run through with us. As you can see on the screen, we work under the aegis of the Initiative for Good and Informed Citizenship. And this is all about making Nigerians better equipped as citizens and voters. I think it's more about remaining educated ourselves and carrying everybody along and educating others about how we need to be informed citizens and participate in the political landscape of our country. So what is Rescue Nigeria? As I said, we operate under the aegis of Initiative for Good and Informed Citizenship. We are a growing movement of like-minded people unified by the common goal of building a strong and successful nation. And we want to banish the ruinous experiment that Nigeria looks like today. We know we have to do something. We are not a political party or association. We are not connected to politicians, but want citizens to be active and informed. We want this to be about us, as citizens of this great country. We want to bring millions of educated Nigerians together. We want leadership to be driven and to serve from our midst, from the rest of the society, so that we can work in making citizens self-aware of their responsibility and ownership, and to demand better and functioning society and political landscape. I believe that we can generate power from the people with a strong motivation, with a clear insight and a sacrificial attitude. Everybody believes that Nigeria can change without us changing. That is not our belief. We believe that change starts with each and every one of us. So you are here today as part of this People's Parliament because you are someone in our movement invited you, and they believe that you're like-minded as well, and you fit into the description and want to partner with us to support the achievement of our goal. So we need you to join us. We don't want people to be on the sidelines. We need people who, as I said earlier, who are prepared to take ownership. This is about joint stakeholder initiative, joint ownership, owning the responsibility together. So we are looking for, people who are ready, who are principled and battle ready. We look for Nigeria anywhere, everywhere in the world to lead the march towards change and progress. No one is going to do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. We have to own it together. So what are the qualifications? You have to be frustrated with the societal issues that we're facing, that we've been facing for youngs, but more so in recent times. You must have absolute desire for change, be prepared to do whatever it takes for it. You must have the willingness to lead, because everybody thinks that it's when you're voted into office that you can lead. We all come from families. Some of us are mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters. So in our own micro setup, we do have leadership. So we want to transpose that into the society at large. So we need people who are willing to lead, who are willing to take the forefront, who are prepared to organize the community, the society that they reside and they live in and they work in, and galvanize everybody to be part of this movement. So what's the next step? We need you to please register to become a member at rescue.ng. To volunteer, we need you to become active as a volunteer. We need you to fill the form as well. So, and in terms of so we'll soon be onboarding members because we have different areas like communication, research, and so on, where we want people to be active and bring their skills and abilities and experiences to help us in those areas. Follow us, please, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X nowadays, WhatsApp, TikTok, and on the web. You'll find us everywhere, and we would like for you to promote us everywhere where you have links and connections as well. Together, we can make Nigeria great. Let's do it together. That's what we're all about. Thank you, everyone.
We have 3 panelists. 2 have been here before. The last time we had this conversation, both of them were here, and were they fiery? Yes, indeed. But today we're starting with our guest panelist. I'm going to say the guest panelist because it's the one who's new today. And I love his quote, and starting from there, he says, "We have a long road to travel, and with the right governance structure and mindset, we shall overcome." Fabulous. On that note, I'd like to welcome here an alumnus of the Harvard Kennedy School, an alumnus of the Lagos Business School, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management, member of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators. Look, I can go on. He graduated with honors and was one of the best in his class from Nigeria's premier university, the University of Ibadan, in 1984, with a degree in geography from the Faculty of Social Sciences. He's a main guest today. He's a managing partner and CEO of GVC Professional Services and Benga Barijo and Co. That's a firm of chartered accountants and tax practitioners. Oh my word. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to just welcome you, sir. Can we hear your voice? Welcome to the People's Parliament.
Thank you very much, Moderator. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to the Parliament. Thank you so much. I also welcome Ibukun Akinka. We know you, investment banker. You've been here before. I welcome you, as well as Ademola Oni. Where are you? I can see Ibukun Akinka. Where is Demola Oni? All 3 of them are ready to roll. Now, as we start, I'm going to start with you, sir. What do you think are the challenges in the banking industry in Nigeria today?
Thank you very much, Moderator. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm happy to be part of what will bring change to our political economy as a whole, because we need to be active in trying to fix the country. Nobody should sit on the fence. And what we are doing is an indication that we need to create an atmosphere where a lot more people can, contribute to the discussions on what is bedeviling us and what are the possible solutions. No man is an island. We need to see it as a collective responsibility, and rather than sit on the fence, come on and put all we've got. Everybody comes up with some form of solution when you're able to identify the problems. You can't solve a problem that you have not correctly identified. Now, concerning the banking sector in Nigeria, banking in itself is a very fragile business. Fragile because it deals with the most liquid commodity that controls the economy at large, and that controls the world. Banking controls the economy at large. Every transaction results into Naira and Kobo. This Naira and Kobo affects the prosperity of nations. So if that is the case, That means the stakeholders in any banking sector must play very significant roles in modifying, in directing the affairs of the sector. And who are the stakeholders? And this concept of stakeholders is key. Government, major stakeholder, customers are major stakeholders, employees are major stakeholders, the service providers are major stakeholders. So there are problems, there are challenges that will bedevil each of these stakeholders, and that will affect the banking ecosystem on the whole. So if you are going to talk about banking, we need to talk about the stakeholders. And we need to talk about how each of these stakeholders affects the banking sector in itself. If we take one of the stakeholders and leave all the others, then we'll be making a whole lot of mistakes. And there will be problems that affects one stakeholder and it will affect all the others. Let us take government, how the government is a stakeholder. The government tries to control what happens in the economy through the CBN. What does the CBN do? The CBN issues currency, is the banker's bank, is the government bank. The CBN is the lender of large results, and then the CBN manages the forex of a nation. CBN tries to coordinate the activities of what I mean by this is there must be a handshake between monetary policy guidelines and fiscal policies. CBN ensures all of that. And some of these functions are particularly difficult in an environment where there are political considerations, there are social considerations, and there are political, economic, and social considerations. And there's a trilemma that comes. I mean, we are used to saying dilemma, but in current political analysis of current political economies, there's something called trilemma. Ability to have a balance between three different opposing circumstances: the political, the social, and the economic situation, circumstance.
I'm going to stop there, sir. I know you have a lot to say, but we're just starting the program today. So let me yield the floor to Ibuka Kinka a bit. I'll come back to you. I like that you've talked about stakeholders in the banking sector. You've talked about monetary and fiscal policies. You've talked about the CBN being the banker's bank and the lender of last resort. I think we should be talking about the role of the CBN in the overall health of banking in Nigeria as we progress. But let me go to Ibuka Inka very briefly about the challenges of banking in Nigeria. I started the program with you, your quotes at the last parliament. So please talk to us. What do you think? Have you changed in terms of your thoughts regarding the challenges in banking in Nigeria?
Yes, so banking generally is all about it's a business whereby you get funds from the surplus, people who have cash or funds in surplus, and then you address the deficit, people who require funds. So the way the Nigerian economy is, the economy generally is there is a challenge for the banking sector in discharging that duty, in the sense that it's so difficult for banks in Nigeria to carry out their core responsibility of lending right now. And this is as a result of the various policies, the economic indices that we have in Nigeria right now. We have a very high interest rate. Before we spoke the last time, it was 26%. Recently, last week, the CBN increased it to 27%, just to curb inflation. What that means is that people who access funds are going to access them at 30%. At the least, it's going to be 30%. It's going to be very difficult for people to do business at 30% when you borrow at 30%. Again, you also have very high reserve ratios. You have cash reserve ratio used to be 45% for Nigerian banks. it's the highest I've seen anywhere in the world. I've not seen anyone come close to 45%. That means for every 100 naira you deposit in the bank, the banks have to keep 45 naira out of that 100 naira as cash, and then they cannot lend with that. So when you give the bank 100 naira, they can only lend 55 naira out of that 100 naira. And recently, the CBN also increased that again to 50%. So based on that, the bank cannot, do a lot of lending activities, and then they now resort to, just trading in currency, FX, and all that. So that's the number one problem that I think the banks are facing. And you also have all other things that come onto all other industries in Nigeria, infrastructural deficits, and I think another problem right now is also brain drain, lack of talent, and all that. So to just, paraphrase it, I think that's the major issues confronting them right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Chartered accountants in the UK and Canada, experienced banker in Nigeria, UK, and Canada as well. Thank you very much. Our second panelist there. I see Demola Oni is back. So let's have your thoughts about the challenges in banking in Nigeria, just before we get into what we can do to get banking to be more healthy in Nigeria. The challenges, Demola Oni, welcome.
Yes, I know the economy in general is really, really suffering in all areas. But how can we come out of it? I think that should be the point. Because all of us, the prime role that central bank plays in any nation. And I came with some ideas I think we need to adopt. You understand? Because like I said, as it stands on my standard, Nigerian bankers, we are talented, knowledgeable, and we can do exploits if given the opportunity. Because we know what our bankers are doing in all African countries and any country they find themselves. But that's not the issue. Central banks, they need a lot of issues. The governing council that is governing central banks, Nigerian banks, they have all it takes to turn this country and the economy around, to lend to all sectors. But the regulatory framework is lacking. It's really, really lacking. So we really need to slide the governing council, how we select the board members, the central bank governor, and the rest of them. Then we must have proper framework on standby.
Right. Thank you very much, Demola Oni, investment and commercial banker, now very much into energy, infrastructure, entrepreneurship. Welcome to the People's Parliament. You've set the tone. You were the last person, the last panelist I'm talking with, but you've set the tone regarding the conversation about CBN. Sagbenga Badijo also touched on CBN, so I am returning to him to speak to how the CBN, as the apex bank, can begin to look at how to rescue banking in Nigeria. And I need this to be in very precise manner. Let's just go straight to the point. Do you think three things each that you think the CBN can do to reposition and re-innovate banking in Nigeria? Over to you, Sagbenga Badijo. Three things.
Thank you very much. I think principally the CBN must do all it can to ensure macroeconomic stability. Without macroeconomic stability, the economy will be in ruins, and we are already experiencing a lot of that. That's number one, macroeconomic stability, without which the economy will be in ruins, and that is already before us. Now, for the second one, which is directly related to the first one. There must be a handshake between our fiscal policies and monetary policy guidelines. If there's no handshake, monetary policy guidelines is going north, fiscal policy is going south, there is no convergence, and it will look like we're just doing trial and error with the economy. And where will trial and error lead us? It can only lead us further into the abyss. And then there must be improved regulatory framework devoid of political machinations. If the CBN is not set up to deliver these three things, then there's going to be a problem. And that problem will not be able to solve it. For instance, in the past, you do not have a CBN that has a board, that has a chairman. The CBN governor is the chairman of the board. And this creates a lot of, if he's influenced, then the whole CBN is in shambles. And there are chances that he'll be influenced because of political considerations. So there must be improved, framework for corporate governance that enables a robust consideration of our problems and devoid of political consideration or devoid of influences that may ruin the economy before we know it. So those three things are key. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stay with you. For those of us who are not chartered accountants, neither are we bankers, what do you mean? Just break it down for us, Sabadejo. What do you mean by monetary policies and fiscal policies? And the convergence you talked about, the handshake you talked about. Let us understand it in layman terms.
Yes, thank you very much.
When you say monetary terms, what does that mean? Fiscal policy, what does that mean? Because not all of us on this call are bankers or in the financial sector.
Yeah, one of the panelists talked about interest rates. It used to be 26, it's been moved to 27. These are monetary policies. These are policies that determines how much a bank can give out of its deposits, how much a bank should retain. The CBN may decide to curtail the banks from lending out a certain percentage of whatever they take from depositors. Fiscal policies will dictate, inflation is now 40%. What are we going to do to bring down inflation? What are we going to do to encourage exports and forex? What are we going to do to curtail excessive importation? So as the CBN is putting things in place to encourage savings, which can encourage investments, CBN will also be considering making sure that monies can be made available to different sectors of the economy that needs it. The real sectors of the economy are suffering from lack of capital. They're suffering from lack of loanable funds. Even when government make policies to encourage the productive sectors to have access to funding, are these policies, are they implemented to the letters? So as you are trying to curtail inflation and you are putting things in place to ensure that monetary policies and fiscal policies come together to encourage real production for the real sectors, because we're not going to rely forever on oil to supply the money that we need to run the economy. The real sector, the productive sector is suffering, and monies must be made available to them to finance their operations. All the industries are dying. All the industries are folding up, but the banks are making stupendous profit. The people that they are supposed to lend money to, they are suffering. Real sectors are collapsing. The banking sector seems to be the only one that is profiting right now. When you go and look at the balance sheet of banks, you see the stupendous profit that they are making, while the people, one of the stakeholders, the customers, the industrialists, everybody is suffering. So there must be a handshake between credit policies and fiscal policies to ensure that the intended objective of being the banker's bank, being the government banks, should translate into prosperity.
Yes, thank you very much, Sabadejo. I like that you've broken this down for us, particularly that our banks are declaring profits and the people banking with them are impoverished. They're complaining, but the banks are smiling, as it were. The joints, I mean, there's something not right there, and I'm glad that you've spoken about that. I'm going to return to you, Ademola Onibuku. Just hold on for me. You talked about, Ademola, you talked about the governing council of the CBN, and Sir Badejo also talked about the regulatory function of the CBN. I'm returning to you to add two more points to how the CBN can begin to ensure that the banking industry in Nigeria is healthier than it is presently.
You know, like Yoruba Palace, we normally say something that Amokun, apologies to my other Nigerians that did not hear that. I think my beautiful, wonderful sister will help me to interpret that. So what I'm trying to say is this: the governing council of CBN, how are they doing selection? What is the quality of those people? What is their qualification? What's their background? Very important. How are they selecting the central bank governor? What is their, they have interest in the banking industry? How can you bring somebody that has interest, that have his own bank, to come and regulate an industry that is, we're just a joke. You understand? We need quality people that does not have business interest in the banking industry to regulate it. That's when we are going to enjoy banking in Nigeria. We need to have political will to select quality people that are not biased, that are professional. The academic, where are all professors? Do you understand? There are so many hidden things there for the selections of the people that govern the central bank, their directors, and the governor itself. So we really need to look into that. There's going to let there be a special write-off to government on that. So that is for that.
Okay.
Okay. Let me stop here.
No, you talked about the selection process for the governing council. It needs to be devoid of politics, but how is that even possible? Everything in Nigeria is politically motivated. So Ibuku, we're talking about the CBN, and we're looking at three things. Tell us three things you think the CBN can do to make the banking industry or the banking sector healthier than it is at the moment.
Yeah, so I want to speak further on what Benga said the other time about handshake between fiscal and monetary policies. Where we are as a nation right now is that inflation is at 30%, and any nation that has inflation at 30% that means the currency is the currency is bad, and it speaks so much about the economy. So right now, the CBN's focus is reducing that inflation from 32% to something more reasonable. And when you are doing that, they are now sacrificing economic growth. So when you increase interest rates, that means you are trying to reduce the amount of money in circulation. You are trying to restrict lending. That means you are sacrificing economic growth so as to keep inflation in check. So when he spoke about the handshake between fiscal and monetary policies, we need to ask ourselves, how did we get to a situation whereby we have 30% interest rates? What were the policies of the government that was responsible for us being in a position where we have over 30% inflation rates? And yeah, we can talk about many things. You can talk about, I don't know if we are aware of, ways and means where the government was just borrowing about the stipulated percentage from the previous, CBN and the previous government, and that increased the amount of money in circulation. And that's one of the things that the current CBN is trying to clean. And I was, listening to the CBN governor speak when he raised interest rate the last time, and you could see the frustration because they can only do little, they can only use what's within their means. But if government is not being responsible, federal and state government, if they are not doing what they are meant to do, all these efforts are just going to be a waste. But when we say, why are they increasing interest rates? Why are they, doing all these things? They are stifling the economy. It's just a sacrifice because the baseline, which is the interest rate, which is the inflation rate, has to be brought within control. And then when it comes to regulating the banks, from my research, I could see that the CBN has done a lot of, they've done a lot of things. There are a lot of frameworks to ensure that there is a better service delivery for the Nigerian populace. But where I think the CBN is lacking right now is, enforcing those regulations, ensuring that the customers are aware and also enforcing them. So what if there is service failure, what are the fines? Are we seeing banks being penalized? If you read over the last 1-2 weeks, you will see the TD Bank in USA being slapped, hefty fines for for error in clients' credit reports. I could see another bank was also fined for before you see a lot of fines when you are not doing what you're meant to do. But is that the case in Nigeria? You see clients complaining every time, and then when they copy CBN, you see the banks respond immediately when you copy CBN. So I think it's just about enforcing those rules, those frameworks, those policies that they've created. I don't think it's for lack of policy or framework. I think it's for lack of oversight and enforcing those rules and regulations that they've crafted.
Thank you very much, Ibukake Nkade. I love your contribution. You talked about ways and means. You talked about increasing how the increase in interest rates is impoverishing everyone and reducing the money in circulation. And then the enforcing of regulation is what we need. It's not that we lack the laws, we need the enforcement. And in addition to people copying the central bank and getting the banks to work, nowadays what people do is call them out on Twitter. So a totally unrelated thread is going on, is getting a lot of people. Then somebody jumps in to say, Zenith, you have not done this access, you have not done this, and they're getting results because they're not getting results in the normal channel. Okay, all right, I'm moving away from the CBN now. I'm going into fintech because that's another trend in Nigeria. We see Money Points, we see OPay, we see PalmPay, we see all manner of companies coming up. How can digital innovation and fintech solutions improve financial inclusion in Nigeria, especially for underserved population? I'll start with you, sir.
Thank you very much. I can say without any fear of contradiction that CBN has done a whole lot in ensuring financial inclusion. And the figures are there, the numbers are there. We started this discussion by you reading out some figures, which Mr. Inka supplied the other time. Those figures are quite impressive. We may not be where we ought to be, but CBN has made a lot of improvements. Financial inclusion will ensure that people that are either too unbanked can be banked. There are a lot of people that are not in the banking net. A lot of people still do a lot of things, outside the banking infrastructure, which is not good for business. CBN has to be able to be on top of its game, and that is why financial inclusion has helped a lot to drag a lot of people into the banking net. And it's working. It can be improved upon by better financial infrastructure, because there's infrastructure deficiency that still does not ensure that financial inclusion can continue to grow in the in dramatic proportion that is intended to. There's high costs of entry into that sector. Can't go into digital banking if you don't have solid finances to go into it, and then there's inadequate risk management practices. These are sectors that are fraught with a lot of danger. I started by saying banking is a very fragile business. When money is gone, it is gone. Trying to get it back is a whole lot of problems. So there has to be adequate risk management practices that will be put in place, good enhanced cybersecurity, and then there must be human capital development. People must be trained and retrained to be able to cope with the complexity or the difficulties or the problems that may result from all this financial inclusion that we are trying to aid through digital transformation. The way to go is this digital transformation. It has a velocity, a very high velocity of ensuring there's inclusion, banking inclusion. Going digital helps a lot. There are things I remember like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there are things that takes ages to do, you know. But right now, at the comfort of your office or in the comfort of your house, you can transfer money anywhere in the world. You can do a whole lot of things at the touch of a button. You don't even need to get to a bank. Some of my friends will say, we can't remember the last time we even visited a bank, because from your laptop, you can do a whole lot of things. For the banks and the service providers need to have financial muscle to continue to update their infrastructure because there's a high cost of ensuring banking inclusion. There must be adequate risk management practices, enhanced cyber security practices. Thank you very much.
I'm staying with you. I need you to give us concrete examples. For instance, I know that in Asia and India, there is some sort of mobile banking that gets, women in the rural areas. I mean, there are books about this, that in such a way that they can bank at their level, they can transact business at their level. They have all kinds of, little initiatives for them. I don't think we have such in Nigeria now, such that the market woman, and I'm not talking about trader money and all of that. I'm talking of that sort of mobile banking that pulls in people in the rural area. Because we saw during the Naira for Naira exchange, I think a year ago, when Nigeria's currency was changed, we saw how terribly hit people were in the rural areas of Nigeria. So if we're talking of fintech and digital innovation, do you have concrete examples that shows that, or that show that the rural Nigeria is in the net and is being catered for?
I can tell you that the rural Nigeria is yet to tap into this digital transformation. I was in Kenya a while ago, and I discovered that what we are lacking in terms of what you described, getting the rural women, the rural population, is already embraced in a place like Kenya. I mean, it's not yet solid in Nigeria. And I can tell you one major reason why Nigeria is just trying to play catch-up: internet penetration. Without internet penetration, what is the level of our internet penetration in Nigeria? It's still abysmally low. And the government must work assiduously to ensure. I had the minister I'm trying to remember his portfolio now, the telecommunications minister, trying to talk about how to improve internet connectivity by laying optic cables and all the rest of it. That's a principal thing that must happen to be able to embrace digital banking. Without an enhanced internet penetration, a lot of people will still be caught up. Even those of us in urban centers, we experience a lot of glitches. There are times you want to conclude a transaction, you initiate it. On your app, it shows that you have concluded it, And the person that is meant to receive the money waits 2 days before the transaction is concluded. Some will never even find the credit coming to their phone. Transactions will show on one side that it's been done, and on one side it's not been done. And sometimes your transactions can linger for 2 days and it gets reversed at the end of the day. So these glitches would come in the way of inclusion, come in the way. So if the rural women are trying to log on into this and they experience all these difficulties, and don't forget that they will have made a lot of efforts to embrace this. And once they get disappointed, there is that feeling that this thing is not working and they want to dump it. But the more it works for them, the more they embrace it. If there are no false starts, the more they embrace it, the more you have this inclusion. And government must deliberately focus on internet penetration. That's the backbone. Thank you.
Okay, the network is a little tricky at this juncture, so I government must deliberately focus on internet penetration, because it's only when it enhances that we can have inclusion the way we should have it with women and men in rural areas. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I come to you, Demolaoni. FinTech, digital banking. What do you think?
FinTech, they have come to stay in Nigeria. They are doing excellently. Though I want to start from where Sabadijo concluded. The internet penetration is very, very important. Very, very important to enhance their business. You know, what I just come up with is they just have to be innovative in their technology. We need innovation and technology in that sector. They just need to promote digital banking and their mobile payment. We need to really, really invest on startup business in that fintech. They need to enhance an online security and cyber security measure. Because, for instance, you transfer money now, you may enter somewhere, or at times some people will just hack your account. All those things, the industry needs to really, really invest in security and cyber security, put cyber security measure. And we really need to leverage on data analytics for informed decision making for the authority. Then they need financial inclusion. What do I mean by that? You need to expand the agent banking network for all these areas that this thing. We need to develop tailored products for underserved population. They really need to improve on financial literacy and education for the populace. We just have to encourage savings and investment. But I came up with something I call CCA, means customer-centric approach, because what we are experiencing in Nigerian banking, they lack that customer service. They are not delighting their customers. So they really need to enhance customer service and support. They really need to offer user-friendly digital platform. They don't have any option. They need to invest more on that. And they really need to provide competitive interest rates and fee. They really need to foster on their customer loyalty program. They need to invest in more capacity building. In the area of, they need to invest more in training of their employees and the rest of them, so that they can attract and retain some of their top talents in the industry. And we just have to encourage diversification and inclusion. So those are the things I think if they can include that in this industry, a proper framework by the governing body, which is central bank, we will be at the top in Africa, as we rarely say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Demolaoni. Thank you. You'd like that we should leverage on data analytics. And then our banks need to work on their customer-centric approach, because right now they're not customer-centric. That's you. Then you talked about capacity building and proper framework. Then you return to the governing council of the CBN again. I talked to you, Ibukwaki, because someone is asking, what is fintech? What does it mean? He said he's a layman like me. What does fintech mean? Before I start interrogating your thoughts about where we are in terms of the services, please help us. What is fintech?
So yeah, it's so fintech is right now we have tech startups. These are technologically based companies. And then when you talk about fintech, these are the technologically based companies that focus on providing financial services. So they can be anywhere in the chain. They can be, right now we have OP, we have Paga. Those ones they started as, providing payment channels, and then they have also grown into, something like full service banking. So yeah, those are technological companies that are involved in the financial industry. They could be anywhere in the value chain, but mostly what they are now doing right now is, so there was a problem about financial inclusion. 10 years ago, our financial inclusion rate was around 30%, and it was very bad. And like Sagbenga said, in Kenya, they were able to solve that. So how was it solved in Kenya? It was because almost everyone has a mobile phone. So if almost everyone that has a mobile phone can do banking services, you'll be able to solve the issue of financial inclusion. So the telecommunication. So in Kenya, what you have is that MTN and the big communication providers are the ones who use their platform to provide those banking services. But when they wanted to come into that, applying for PSB license, payment service bank license, they were denied because the government was afraid that MTN, for instance, if they go into that, they are going to have deposits because of their reach. They are going to have deposits greater than, they are going to be a major upturn the financial industry. So to protect the Nigerian banks, they denied them that license that time. So uh, what we have majorly is that actually financial inclusion has improved from 30% that it was. Right now we're at 60% without this telecommunication companies. But I think towards 2020, MTN and Airtel were giving PSB licenses. So MTN now has Momo, and they can now do mobile money services. The main issue for financial inclusion is because we still depend on internet services. So I need internet to be able to do my mobile banking. But if we have, what was going on in Kenya was that you have USSD. So USSD, you don't need internet services. By just pressing the code, you can transfer funds. Just start something, 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 you can transfer it. You don't need internet. And also, you don't need to be very, very literate to be able to transfer funds. For instance, I want to transfer funds to you. I can just press star 111 star your phone number, because I think people are now using phone numbers as account numbers. So even if you're not literate, you'll be able to do core business services from your phone. And I think that's where we need to go to be able to, deepen financial inclusion. If you're able to, if you can get USSD services right, then you wouldn't need internet services to be able to, deepen financial inclusion. And then another issue is that because those agents, this third-party agents, they were used to, improve financial literacy. They were not the core banks. And so you would see that the we call it KYC. The KYC requirements were very limited, and then you will see that those accounts are now being used for fraud. Then now we need to also tighten the regulation of all these mobile money services. I could see CBN talking about KYC for POS operators. maybe you need to provide your certificate of incorporation and all that, because you could see that all these criminal activities are being carried out using these POS activities. So yeah, it's not where it's meant to be. We can improve by, deploying USSD services, but I think there also needs to be improved regulation on what we have currently, because I think the problem we all have right now is the number of accounts, the number of transactions. It's so much that I don't think the Nigerian banks as it is, they don't have the capacity to actually cater to the number of accounts and transactions right now.
Keeping an eye on the internet and picking a few things. There's this question: what are the drivers of financial inclusion in Nigeria? And from a paper titled Financial Inclusion as a Catalyst for Economic Growth in Nigeria, there were three things: remittance, trade openness, interest rates, and exchange rates. Those are the main drivers of financial inclusion in Nigeria, according to this paper. But that's not even where I'm going. I'm looking at which African country has the best financial system. And I see South Africa ranked as the most developed financial market in Africa in 2022, scoring 88 out of 100 points in the AXA Africa Financial Markets Index, followed by Mauritius. And then I'm looking at what is the financial inclusion rate in Nigeria. And I see 64% in 2023, 56% in 2020. So it has grown. And then I see that the CBN actually launched a national financial inclusion strategy at some point. Do you want to speak to all of these things I've thrown into the conversation, sir?
Thank you very much. Mr. Kinka has spoken quite extensively on all of this, but I'll reiterate some of the things he has spoken. He gave a good account of this area. Financial inclusion in Nigeria used to be very, very low. CBN stepped in to ensure that we improve financial inclusion because it's advantageous to the economy. If a lot of things are happening under the radar, the CBN is not also able to predict. And if the CBN's one of the major functions is to control and monitor, and give us monetary guidelines, and you don't even know 70% of the money in circulation, you don't know where it is or what is it being deployed for. And then financial inclusion came to be. And you can see how we've moved from being 30% to over 60%. And that has been a very, very impressive.
4%, thereabout.
Yes. And a lot of things must be in place. The backbone for financial inclusion is predicated on infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure do you have in place to aid financial inclusion? What kind of enabling environment have you put in place? You heard Mr. Kinga saying that the telcos wanted to be part of it, but in Nigeria, they were curtailed because to be able to protect the banking industry, they had to be curtailed because of the reach, because of the ability to take the market by storm. The CBN has an umbrella view of the economy and is trying to moderate in such a way that it's not lopsided in one area. If the telco had been allowed to come into this digital banking, maybe Nigeria would have been the one of the best in Africa. But it could have serious implications on the banking sector. So we need to be careful how this is allowed to come into shape. Now, we need a lot of literacy campaign. A lot of people still do not know what possibilities they have in their hands with the mobile phone that they carry around. A lot of people do not know that it is possible to still do a whole lot of things right in the comfort of their offices. And a lot of people are scared to use this to get into, using digital banking because of the fear that they may be swindled or,
Okay, so I'm going to
you
jump
find,
right
you
in.
find,
I
you
hear the
find,
word scared. The
yeah.
internet is a little tricky again, but I want to jump right in. I heard the word scared, and it reminds me of crypto, blockchain technology. There are all kinds of things that we hear nowadays. Please speak to that as I steer the conversation to having such transactions and getting into such terrain in banking in Nigeria.
Let me finish what I was trying to say the other time. I was
Blockchain
trying to say that
technology, cryptocurrency, and all of that.
we've had cases where somebody will say that I transferred money once, it went twice. Some will even complain that they transferred money once, it went twice. Why does these things happen? They happen because there are, challenges in the way those transactions were terminated. And this enhanced technology will check, that you do not get in a fix while trying to use something that should make life better for you, can end up making life very difficult for you. Where you had wanted to transfer money once and it went twice, what respite? What is your fallback position? How fast are you able to ameliorate this situation? What are the remedies available to you? Are you going to wait indefinitely? Imagine a rural woman that wants to transfer 1,000 naira, has 2,000 naira in her account, wants to transfer 1,000 naira, and the 2,000 naira ended up being transferred, and she's left with nothing. How would you tell that kind of person to embrace digital banking? So there must be enhanced security network, there must be improved, infrastructure, the backbone must be strong enough to prevent all these type of things from happening, which will definitely impact on people's ability to cut into digital banking. If these things persist and you are saying in one breath, embrace digital banking, in another breath, you are not taking care of the concerns of the people that are embracing digital banking. Their complaints are not attended to. All these problems can only be solved by enhanced technology. And you need money, you need investments to put these technologies in place and improve on them as the need arises. As your network expands, you have to do a stress test and make sure that the technology that you have put in place is robust enough to deal with complaints, and you must not take your customers for granted. Once they are not satisfied, once they don't like the services they are getting, the willingness to continue to use digital banking services is hampered. And then, by extension, financial inclusion is not going to be enhanced. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Let me come to you, Ibukunwakinka. Blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, and in that direction, what are your thoughts on how these are being done in Nigeria?
I could remember when crypto or when
Can you
crypto.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can remember like some few years ago when crypto came into play. The last CBN government, they actually banned crypto, and it was actually banned. And even if you are not, as banks, you are not allowed to bank clients involved in crypto business. And even if on your account they could see that the narration has some crypto transactions, they were going to close that bank account. But I think over the last couple of years, the CBN has realized that it cannot, the world is moving towards crypto, and they cannot shy away from it. they can only regulate it. So I think they are trying to develop a framework, for cryptocurrency. But I'm not too knowledgeable about those framework and how it works currently. But the CBN has realized that they cannot do away with that technology, but they can only allow it to be regulated. So I think right now they are developing a framework for cryptocurrency in Nigeria, but I'm not aware of how far they have gone.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Let me come to you, Ademola. What are your thoughts on the state of crypto in Nigeria? I know that there is somebody being tried in court, Binance executive being tried in court or something. Talk to us about crypto business in Nigeria and blockchain technology.
Yes, I said this cryptocurrency stuff. I don't think Nigeria is ripe enough to play on that sector, in the sense that the cryptocurrency, our financial literacy in this country is still very, very low. And most of the elite and most of tech guys, they are just using it to disrupt economy, and it gives a lot of cyber guys to stock up money and to sabotage the economy. For me, I'm not seeing any benefit on that cryptocurrency or any digital stuff like that. For instance, look at what is happening to the Binance. Immediately they got the guy arrested, within few hours, the dollar started coming down, and at the end of the day, immediately they still release the guy, or one of them still escape, or this thing, something trigger another thing in the economy. For me, I would support government to even ban it, because I think that is my own contribution for that.
All right, let's go to the comments box and see what's going on there. I'd like to thank our panelists. The three panelists have been forthcoming this afternoon. Let's see what we have here. Interest rates, Jacob Adekunle says interest rate is very high. Lack of support for SME and major big organization that employs thousands of people are closed down. He also says the stability of the economy is very sacrosanct. The rate of lending, or the lending rate, is high and it's affecting the SMEs. We've answered the question about what fintech is. It's financial technology. And the same person is saying, does it mean banking without brick and mortar? Let me fast forward. Gabriel Olabode says, agreed that there is need to improve internet penetration, but also interesting to note that even with the current available technology infrastructure, the fintech brands are quite more responsive compared to conventional banks. Okay, I'm looking at more comments. Can't find them now. Thought I saw another one now. Yeah, but those are the comments we have so far. Those are the comments we have so far. Let me return. Oh, you have a question. Who has a? Yes, you can talk. Please unmute yourself and talk if you have a question.
Thank you, Funke. Yeah, my question is very, very basic. When I see too many people at the banks in Nigeria, I remember many years ago when I was a young graduate, if you went to the bank, you spend almost half day trying to collect your salary. I don't think the situation has changed that much today. And it does sadden me that after more than 30 years, you still see so many people crowding the banks. And then you have the ATM machines. But I've been to a bank where out of about 10 ATM machines, only about 2 were working and some of these ATMs would not dispense more than 5,000 naira. What can you do with 5,000 naira?
It goes without saying that banks must be alive to their responsibility in managing the expectations of the customer. You are right. You still see a lot of people in the bank, but it could have been worse. I'm telling you, a lot of things has improved. You won't find as many people as we used to find these days, because it is even not in the interest of the banks to have people come and just sit around in their banking hub, even for security reasons. The fewer people that you allow into your banking hall, the better for you to manage security concerns. ATMs are there to dispense cash, but the turnaround time that the banks require to carry money around, stock up must be improved upon. Service delivery from the banks must be improved upon to ensure that people can get the kind of service they want. If the ATMs are working, that cuts people away from trying to get access into the banking hall of banks. Now, if the backbone, if you are able to do your transactions online, why would you go to the bank? But when your services are down online, nobody can access your services. It will even look like you are sabotaging your customers. Customers want to. A lot of people have 2, 3, 4 bank accounts, because if this bank is not working, you migrate to the platform on another bank, and by the time you try 2 or 3 banks, you are frustrated. You just carry your briefcase and walk into the bank and get the transaction done right there at the counter. So why do I need to go to the bank if in the comfort of my office I can transact my business? So the banks have a lot of responsibility in ensuring that customer service is top notch. I remember in the 90s, Antitrust came on board and changed the face of customer service, and a lot of banks latched on to that, and it changed the face of customer service in the banking industry. And many more banks are still trying to do that, but right now it's inadequate, and that is why you have noticed that things are not moving as fast as one will expect. In Europe, you walk past, in America, in advanced countries, you walk past some places, you don't even know that banks are there. You don't even see people parking cars and getting into, because they can do a whole lot of things without actually trying to access the banking hall. So the banks have a lot of responsibility to improve customer service, service delivery, ability to attend to customer complaints, and ability to have robust systems that caters for the demands of the customers.
I read a story during the past week about banks being told not to allow their ATM machines to be cosmetic in front of their banks, because really many people are not going to the ATM machines anymore because there are POS agents all over the place. Let me come to you, Kwakinka. You have your hands raised.
Okay, yes, I want to follow up on that question about, I think the first one was on service delivery. Why do we still have crowd in the Nigerian banks? And I think it's because banking in Nigeria is not competitive as it is. You only have, let's say, you only have crowd in the top banks. I don't want to mention names right now, but if you go down the road and you go to the less popular banks, I don't think you will see any crowd there. How did we get there? That's another conversation. And then for the big banks that have these big clients, this big customer base, they are meant to expand on the number of branches that they have. I know we are trying to go digital, but there are still some transactions that cannot be done digitally, that people still need to come to where you are. Even in developed countries, you see the big banks, they have branches in every 5 to 10 minutes drive. Even you don't see people going to the bank, but they still ensure that for every locality, for the big banks, they ensure that they have presence in all those areas. But it's not the case for Nigerian banks. I was hoping that with the new recapitalization drive, I was hoping to see one of the agenda of the banks to be that they want to increase their banking presence. But when I looked at the prospectus of those banks that raised capital recently, they were not focusing on the Nigerian market. They are actually focusing on conquering the international market. And then when you talk about the POS, why the ATMs don't dispense cash anymore, I did a little digging into that. It's because I think it's one of the side effects of us trying to improve on digital financial inclusion by having POS agents. So there's a cash cycle. So once CBN brings out cash through the banks, and then people spend it, and then it comes back to the bank. So before, you have cash returning to the system through some aggregators. You have supermarkets, you have churches, you have petrol stations, where they aggregate cash and then they return it to banks. But because we have POS businesses right now, you have people set up POS businesses and those cash is not being returned to the bank. And so you have people who have fuel station, they have cash. Instead of taking it to the bank to replenish that cycle, they have their own business, their own POS business, and the banks cannot continue to just go to the CBN and take cash. So yeah, I think I think Nigerians have actually accepted that right now the means of getting cash right now is from these POS businesses, and it's just unfortunate.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Somehow Nigerians have found a way around having cash, not having to go to banks, and POS points are working just fine for them. But it's having a ripple effect on the ecosystem in banking generally. Let me come to you, Demola, and then we'll take your final thoughts, all the panelists. But let's take Demola on this question of ATM machines and the question that they asked earlier.
All right. Thank you very much. On the ATM issue, I'm going to differ a little. For me, we still go down on CBN because it's the lack of enforcement of understand. You cannot call yourself bank and you are serving people. You open your branch, your ATM does not have money there. I don't know what they are doing. So somebody is not doing their work. So if there's a guideline framework for each bank that, okay, let there be a sanction if your ATM does not dispense money. For me, I will see it as a sabotage to them. The majority of the bankers, they are the owners of all these POS agents. So the government, the central bank needs to stand their foot down. If they want to provide banking services to people, they should do that. They should do that. I will keep on referring to international world. You know, when we leave the shore of this country, we have the likes of UBA and the rest of it. I'm sorry for mentioning them. They are not, you can't go to their ATM and you will not see, they will not dispense money. Why are we just making ourselves any slice opportunity in this country? We just want to. If CBN are up to the attack, no bank, during the, I'm sorry, I'm going to mention SLS. During this time, no bank will do that. No bank will do that your ATM will not dispense money. And you are not creating another avenue for people to pay. You can imagine 200 naira in some places, you pay 300 naira because you're on top of your money. So the central bank still needs to stand their ground and fighting. And look at it, they are not even lending to people and they are making stupendous profits. What are they doing? As CBN, have they mandated them to, okay, you must, this your profit you are making. This sector, this is amount you must earmark to be lending to this sector. Let them have capacity for more people to be monitoring those sectors. Each bank that does not, we cannot develop if we are just keep on blaming government. They are not doing providing conducive environment and the rest. They are not. So where are they now making all those profits they are making? So why are they now taking the profit they are making in this country to go and acquire another bank in other African countries? Do you understand? So the framework, guidelines, CBN, they must police them. Let them set aside some certain profit from their profit to each sector, and let the CBN be going around and be checking it. And they must provide this because they are suffering people. I must say that I cannot have my money. I will now go to my bank to just take 10,000 or 20,000. I have to work in. I can't. They will even tell you to go outside to go and collect money. Do you understand? So that some people can just make you take from the little you are having. So I think central bank are directing all the blame to central bank. They need to play their part. They are not playing their part to me in enforcing Nigerian bank to sanitize Nigerian banking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Demola Onida. Just as we were talking, it just occurred to me that in Nigeria, it seems that you never can find the lowest denominations of the naira. It's a mirage for you to start looking for coins in Nigeria. You can't even find 50 naira nowadays. It's gradually out of circulation. So when you now start saying that we still have 5 naira, we still have 10 naira, do we still have 20 naira? Isn't this even affecting transactions in Nigeria at the moment? Sir Badejo, please, as a wrap up.
Thank you very much. As my wrap up, I would go back to where you started from when you were introducing me. We have a long way to go, and we have a long road to travel. And with the right governance and the right mindset, I am sure we would overcome. If we run a country, run a department, run a CBN, run our regulatory frameworks in a manner that there are no consequences, then we will have a longer road to travel. But if we put the right mindset and the right governance structure in place, then our road, the journey will be shorter than we would have expected. And that will be my petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sir Gbenga Badejo. Is the head of Gbenga Badejo and Co., chartered accountants and tax practitioner, and that's a correspondent firm of Rianda International. You can see behind him the backdrop, Rianda International, which is an international network of independent accounting and consulting firms with 41 member firms and over 250 partners with 4,500 staff in 147 locations across the globe, including Asia, Africa, Middle East, and Europe. Sir Badejo has over 37 years cognitive experience, adding immeasurable value at every opportunity given. We thank you for the value you've added to the People's Parliament today, sir. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. So I come to you, Ibukun Akinka. Your final thoughts. I was talking about 10 naira, 20 naira coins absent in Nigeria now for transactions. What are your final thoughts as a wrap up?
I don't think we would have those lower coins anymore because of the effect of inflation. Because for your lowest goods, I don't think you have anything selling for maybe 5 or 10 naira anymore. My final thoughts about banking in Nigeria, when it comes to service delivery, I think the consumers need to continue to put pressure on the banks to do what is right by expanding their infrastructure, by expanding their capacity, by demanding improved service. Like we said, you go to the bank, you have a crowd there, you can vote with your feet. For the banks to just do what is right when it comes to service delivery. And when it comes to, lending services, I think we need to call on the government because I'm sure the banks want to lend. The banks having to, make all their profits from transactions, foreign exchange trading is not what they set out to do. It's because the environment is not conducive enough for them right now to lend. And we will have to call on the government to do what is right in enabling by providing an environment whereby the banks can, freely lend to the populace. And one thing we did not talk about is, there is this collateral registry that has been set up, because I know small businesses always have difficulties in accessing finance from the banks because you don't have a house to, access to provide as collateral to access funds. And I think a collateral registry was set up whereby the banks can now use your small and movable assets as collateral for funds. I don't know how well that is working, but we know that's one of the challenges of the bank, and CBN set up the collateral registry so that, any movable assets, even your inventory, your banks, your accounts receivables, you can use it to access funds from the bank. So I think the populace can also explore that. I think that's my final word. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibukun Akiyinka, Chartered Accountant in the UK and Canada, experienced banker in Nigeria, in the UK and Canada as well. It's your second time on the People's Parliament talking about banking. And when I started this outing of the People's Parliament, I quoted you when you featured last. You had said that the number of accounts in Nigeria has grown from 65 million in 2016 to 133 million in 2021. It means the number of accounts have doubled within the space of 5 years. And people are asked to go to e-channels. Mobile money transactions have grown 30 times within a year. And you talked about the issue of brain drain and service delivery, and the fact that there are more branches, but there are not enough staff manning those branches. I'd like to thank you very much for appearing a second time on People's Parliament and sharing your invaluable insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Right, so I come to you, Mr. Demola Oni, but we have a comment quickly. I'm going to read it. And this is from Gabriel Olabode. He says, like Mr. Ibukun rightly mentioned, in respect to the banks not expanding, high cost of transport fee to banks is part of the reason many have adopted and embraced the POS merchants. And he also said, Coinscape, every 100 naira is even struggling to be relevant in Nigeria. Okay, let me come to you, Ademola Oni.
What I want the central bank to do, still pointing at central bank, they need to be up and doing in their oversight. They need to enhance anti-money laundering and combating the financing terrorism regulation. They need to implement robust risk management guidelines for Nigerian banks. They need to foster transparency and accountability. And the central bank also, they need to support our financial institution by making sure they do a partnership between the bank and the fintech company. They need to encourage interbank collaboration and develop industry-wide standards. The government need to provide infrastructure development for banks by providing power and strong internet network. They need to offer tax incentives to Nigerian banking for innovation. Any bank that comes up with good innovation, they need to give them some tax incentives. They need to enhance security measures for banking operations, and they need to support our financial institutions for inclusion initiative. Any banks that does that and lend to small and medium scale industry, CBN need to give those banks an award and some incentives. So that is just my own conclusion. I believe Nigerian banks what all it takes to turn this economy around if we have right people in the aim of affair of central bank to monitor them. Nigerian bankers, they need proper monitoring. Proper monitoring.
Thank you very much, Ademola Oni. Again, it's your second time at the People's Parliament, and we thank you for your time. You've talked about, as we wrapped up, inter-bank collaboration. Thank you also for your fiery thoughts and your candor at the Parliament today. And so on behalf of Rescue Nigeria, I am Funke Treasure, thanking you for joining us for this conversation about banking in Nigeria, how to get banking right in Nigeria. I'm going to be handing over to today over there now, but thanking all our panelists for your time and your candid thoughts on banking in Nigeria. Join us again in 2 months' time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
over
you.
To you.
Thank you so much, Funke. And thank you everyone for attending today's session. I just wanted to let everyone know that as we normally do, this video is going to be out there on Facebook, on YouTube. We're going to issue press statements. Usually these get well covered in the Nigerian press. We are also going to be sharing clips over the next few weeks because we really do believe that we do need to ginger our people up. We can influence the direction of things in Nigeria in our own individual roles as citizens. Someone said, I think it's President Obama, who said the most special title in a society is that of the citizen. I think we would continue to elevate our role as citizens by participating in events like these. We encourage everyone to think really deeply and dearly about joining us. Every time we have this, we have it once every 3 months, every quarter. We do have a very interesting topic to talk about, but we are not just an organization that meets once a quarter. We do have a Facebook group. Please do join us. We do have actually Facebook. On Facebook, we do have about 56,000 followers there in our group, but you can also join us on WhatsApp. You can join us. You can see what we're doing on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. But you can also go to our website to be a member and to volunteer. Thank you very much. Apologies that this ran a little bit over time today, but I'm really sure that we all have something to take from this engagement. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and talk to you in 3 months.
Naija, which way now?
The central value of the movement is simple. Good citizenship from ordinary people is the driver for good leadership. The movement will therefore require members to pledge to some rules of behavior. These rules are that the citizen is the first and most important unit of change in Nigeria. In everything, the citizen must act morally and with conscience. If the citizen is successful and Nigeria is not, the individual's greatness is vastly diminished. In whatever a citizen of Nigeria does, it will be for the best public good because directly or indirectly, his or her well-being depends on it. Members will strive to do good at all times while rejecting bad, self-centered, incompetent, and corrupt leadership. Members will eschew tribalism and ethnic rivalry and commit to breaking their transmission to the younger generation. Our organization will build a community of change lovers through the social media, electronic communication, message-driven content, data science, the mass media, the legal systems, and community organizing such as this event.